Also, all over India and Sri Lanka, you have dolmens, these megalithic structures that are kind of found worldwide. I mean, this is something that a lot of people don't realize. There are certain styles of megaliths that are found not just in Britain, not just in Europe, but dolmens are found in North America, they're found in South America, they're all over the world, they're Africa, India, Australia, anywhere you can think, Korea. And I visited some, I think the Hiram Benkel dolmens, not far from Hampi.
Yep.
And they were really interesting because I know you've been there, you've been to other ones in South India as well, but there's some examples of they're really thinly cut, they're like slices of granite.
Yes.
They make the dolmens with. And up on the hill, there's a half-sliced boulder, like it's been lasered. I mean, what do you make of these? I mean, because these are supposed to be, 5,000 years old? Something like that?
At least, yes. So if we look at history, right, today's history starts from yesterday, because today it's just news, right? Yesterday, the history starts and goes back to like 3,200 years. But dolmens, cairns, stone circles, they're prehistoric monuments, right? Because we don't have any written record of why they were created. And you are absolutely right. Dolmens and cairns are the only structures which are universal, right? Because in the UK you'll have other structures like this, like the Stonehenge. In Egypt you'll have pyramids. And you're absolutely right? Because dolmens, all these prehistoric structures, right? The stick figures in cave paintings, the dolmens, everything prehistoric is pretty much universal, right? There's no difference. I really love this part because after the historic period, we can say, okay, so this belongs to Hinduism or Southeast Asia and India, and we can look at pyramids of Egypt and say, okay, so these kind of structures belong here. But when we go back in time beyond the historic period, the dolmens are everywhere, right? They're everywhere. And yeah, I did go to the Hira Binnacle site probably 8 years ago, I think. A very interesting site, very interesting dolmens, and you're absolutely right. They did something to the stones, and they look very thin, and it's way up the hill, and nobody goes there. They had bears at that time, were they?
There were apparently bears around, so yeah, we were looking out for them.
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
Very interesting site.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that they kind of they look like they lasered the granite. I mean, we come to India, we're going to talk about this in a moment, about the technology there, but to see them on these dolmens as well, it looks like they're somehow precisely cutting dead flat, really hard crystalline granite. And that really impressed me. One of the other things I noticed was many of them have holes, like a porthole in the entrance to the dolmen itself. And some of them are very tall. They're like houses, and they're supposed to be aren't they supposed to be the houses of the dwarfs? That's what the tradition states, even though some of them are giant size. So you have this dwarf tradition and giants also in India, which I think is really, really interesting. So you just find all these different elements you find in other countries existent in India as well. Just on a side note, before we start talking about some of the technology, the high technology we see in India, when I was there, I visited, I went further north, and I went to some cart ruts, which are called Krishna's chariot tracks. That was way up north. It was before you went to Bodh Gaya. It was kind of that general area around there. And I couldn't believe it. These cart ruts, one set of cart ruts, moving at an angle across this, carved out of basalt though, not limestone. But again, these are universal. These are in Malta, these are in the Azores, even in Texas. They're all over the world. And so I'm just blown away to find little anomalies like that. But here they're applied to the ancient kind of Vedic texts. And they talk about this is the area where Krishna went through in his chariot, and it was so hot it burnt them, and it has a whole story associated with it. You don't really get that in other cultures because the traditions have been lost. Yes. So I find that fascinating. I mean, what do you make of anomalies like that in India?
Yeah, because there's not a single site, I don't think, that's not related to the gods. Because Krishna's butterball is like a huge round rock. It's huge. This is in Mahabalipuram. This is called Krishna's butterball. It's related to Krishna.
Yeah.
And the bridge between Sri Lanka and India, this is called Rama's bridge or Ram Setu. They just attributed that to Lord Rama. This is very common in India. And same thing with your court ruts, just associated with Lord Krishna.
Yeah,
extremely common. We've seen Shiva's musical instrument. We've seen, Vishnu's helicopter type of stuff. Now, we don't know how these names came about. We can also assume that, people were just naming them after gods. But possibly there was some connection between the gods and these things. For example, the Rama's bridge. In the ancient text of Ramayana, they say that Rama literally builds a bridge between India and Sri Lanka. It's detailed in great, it's greatly detailed there. Okay. How long it is and how they built it and all that stuff. So there may be some truth to it,
Yeah.
And eventually we may find out.